A young boy sits on a muddy street playing king. He holds a stick like a scepter, giving orders to his friends. No one knows that a man is watching him from the shadows, a teacher with a fierce vow and nothing left to lose. That boy would become Chandragupta Maurya, the founder of India's first great empire. The man watching him was Chanakya. This is the story of how a teacher took a street boy and turned him into an emperor, and how his book, the Arthashastra, became the ultimate guide to power, statecraft, and strategy. For the next few months, we are going to open that book chapter by chapter and explore every idea a fantasy writer can use. But first, you need to meet the man who wrote it. Hi, I am the Wikked Wordsmith. I'm a novelist, and this is my mytho-fantasy novel, The Books of Arya Kalash. Today we'll discuss Chanakya, the teacher, the strategist, the empire builder. The story begins with an insult. Chanakya was a scholar, a teacher at Takshashila, the oldest university in the world. He was sharp, learned, and deeply respected, until he walked into the court of Dhanananda, the king of Magadha. The Nanda dynasty was rich, powerful, and arrogant. Dhanananda laughed at him in front of the entire court. He called him ugly. He mocked his appearance. He pulled his shikha, the tuft of hair that a scholar ties as a mark of honor. Then he threw him out. Imagine that moment. A man of knowledge, publicly humiliated by a king who values only wealth and power. Chanakya did not shout. He did not threaten. He stood up, untied his shikha completely, and made a vow. He would not tie his hair again until the Nanda dynasty was destroyed. That one insult changed Indian history. Chanakya returned to Takshashila, but his mind was not on teaching anymore. He needed a weapon, a new king he could shape from scratch. History tells us he found that weapon in a village. A young boy, maybe 10 or 12 years old, was playing king with his friends. He sat on a mound of earth, holding a stick like a royal scepter, settling disputes among his playmates with a strange, natural authority. Chanakya watched and saw something no one else could see. He paid the boy's foster family and took him north to Takshashila. That boy was Chandragupta. He didn't just find a talented boy and mentor him, he manufactured a king. Years of training, languages, warfare, politics, economics, the art of reading men. He poured everything he knew into Chandragupta. The boy was not born royal, he was built into a ruler. But training a king is not enough. You need an army, and an army needs money. This is where Chanakya's practical genius first showed itself. Ancient records say he came into a great deal of wealth very suddenly. Some stories talk about alchemy or magic, but historians suggest something far more interesting. Chanakya took war loans from merchant guilds. Takshashila was a trading hub. Goods and coins flowed through it from Persia, Greece, and the Indian interior. Guilds had deep treasuries. Chanakya convinced them that a stable united kingdom under a smart ruler would be better for business than the chaotic Nanda rule, so they funded him. With money in hand, he did something even bolder. Alexander the Great had recently retreated from India, leaving behind Greek governors and mercenaries, skilled soldiers with no strong master. Chanakya hired them. He also struck a deal with Parvataka, a Himalayan king, offering him half the future empire in exchange for his army. Now Chanakya had Greek cavalry, mountain warriors, merchant gold, and a young king in training. He was ready to challenge the Nandas. Their first move was bold, a direct attack on Patliputra, the Nanda capital. It failed. The Nanda army was large, well-trained, and dug deep into the city. Chanakya's allied forces had to retreat. Most people would have given up. Chanakya learned. He realized you cannot knock down a banyan tree by striking its trunk. You cut its roots, slowly, one by one. So he changed the strategy. Instead of attacking the center, they moved along the edges. Border provinces fell first. Garrisons were filled with allied soldiers. Local lords were persuaded or pressured to switch sides. Piece by piece, the Nanda Empire shrank. Finally, they sieged Patliputra again. This time, it fell. Dhanananda was either killed or exiled, sources disagree. But the Nanda dynasty was finished. Chanakya's shikha, which had remained untied for years, was finally knotted again. Chandragupta sat on the throne of Magadha. The Mauryan Empire was born. Victory brought complications. Chanakya had promised half the empire to his ally, the Himalayan king Parvataka. But before that promise could be fully honored, Parvataka fell ill and died. Many sources whisper poison, delivered on Chanakya's orders. Was it true? We cannot be certain. But the pattern is clear. Chanakya did not leave loose ends. There is a stranger story still. Chanakya believed that enemy agents might try to poison Chandragupta. So without telling him, he began adding tiny amounts of poison to the emperor's food to build immunity. Chandragupta never knew. One evening, he shared his meal with his pregnant wife. She collapsed. Chanakya rushed in. He realized what had happened. He ordered the woman's womb cut open immediately. The baby was pulled out alive. A single drop of the poisoned blood had touched his forehead, leaving a mark. They named him Bindusara, the strength of the drop. He would grow up to be the second Mauryan emperor and the father of Ashoka. You cannot make this up. A king accidentally kills his own wife with the immunity his teacher secretly built. That teacher cuts the baby from the dead queen's body to save the dynasty, and that baby's name becomes a legend. If you are writing political fantasy, this is the kind of scene that readers never forget. Dark, practical, and deeply human. Winning the throne was one thing, holding it was another. Chanakya did not just build a kingdom, he built a system. He created a strong central administration, something India had never seen on this scale. He divided governance into urban and rural departments, each with clear responsibilities. He built a road network that connected the empire from the Arabian Sea to the Bay of Bengal. For armies, yes, but also for merchants and pilgrims. He encouraged trade. He let private miners bid for state contracts, keeping competition alive. And here is something that surprises many people. He wrote that taxes should be limited, not out of generosity, but because overburdened citizens revolt. It was pure pragmatism. The state also made provisions for pregnant women, the elderly, the disabled, and those affected by famine or flood. These were not just ideals, they were policies, written down, enforced, and paid for by the treasury. All of this, the spy networks, the tax systems, the welfare rules, the war strategies, was written down in one book, the Arthashastra. Chanakya retired from public life after Chandragupta's death, and he poured everything he knew into this text. 15 books, over 180 topics. It is not a religious book, it is not a moral lecture, it is a manual for building and keeping power, written by a man who did exactly that. So why should a fantasy writer care about a 2,300-year-old manual? Because fantasy worlds run on politics, conflict, and systems. And the Arthashastra is full of systems you can steal and reshape. How to run a spy network using monks, merchants, and courtesans. How to structure a kingdom's treasury so it survives a war. How to use guilds as political players, not just background noise. How a ruler should think about allies, enemies, and the states in between. What Chanakya called the mandala theory. Over the next several videos, we are going to open the Arthashastra chapter by chapter and translate each one into a world-building toolkit. This is going to be a series, and if you are writing political fantasy, court intrigue, or empire-level conflict, you want to be subscribed for this. Chanakya died around 283 BCE, having served 2 emperors. For over 2,000 years, his work was read by kings and ministers across South and Southeast Asia. Today, his ideas are taught in policy schools around the world. Western scholars often call him India's Machiavelli, but here is the truth. Chanakya came 18 centuries before Machiavelli. If anything, Machiavelli is Europe's Chanakya. And unlike Machiavelli, Chanakya did not just write about power. He took a street boy, built him into an emperor, and shaped an empire that lasted over 100 years. He was a teacher, a strategist, a nation builder, and now you know him. If you are building an Indian-inspired fantasy world and need developmental editing or world-building help, links are in the description. Hit subscribe and ring the bell. The Arthashastra series starts with the next video. We will break down Book 1, The Training of a King. See you there. Your fantasy takeaway. 1 lesson. Chanakya did not find a king. He built one. Right mentors who shape their protégés with years of deliberate training, not a single wise speech. One thing to explore. The relationship between Chandragupta and Chanakya, a boy who was molded into a ruler, and a teacher whose entire legacy rested on that molding. That tension is pure story fuel. One idea to take. An advisor who secretly doses his king with poison to build immunity, without the king's knowledge. A bond of protection that becomes a betrayal waiting to explode. Now go build something unforgettable.